Hi guys, today we're going to talk about consecutive integers. Let's start first by looking at the definition of consecutive integers. Consecutive integers are integers that follow one another in order. As an example, we have 2, 3, blank 5. We know that 4 goes into the blank because 4 follows 3. It's the next number after 3. So if you look at this sequence of numbers, you'll find out that to get to the consecutive number, each time we had to add 1. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 1 is 4, and 4 plus 1 is 5. So every time we had to get to the consecutive integer, we had to add 1. So in my equations, what I'm going to do is every time I have to express or describe consecutive integer, I'm going to put x plus 1. And x can be any number. Any number. It doesn't matter what number it is. As long as I add 1 to it, I'm going to be able to get to that consecutive integer. Now, consecutive odd integers are odd integers that follow one another in order. So, as an example, we have 2, 1, 3, blank, 7. So we know that 5 goes into the blank. And if you look at this sequence of numbers, you'll find out that each time we had to add 2 to the next odd integer. So 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. So to get to the next or consecutive odd integer, we had to add 2. So as a general rule, I'm going to express consecutive odd integer with x plus 2. Now, consecutive even integers are even integers that follow one another in order. So let's take a look at this example where we have 2, 4, blank, 8. We know that 6 goes into the blank, and to get from one even number to the next even number, we had to add 2 again. So 2 plus 2 is 4, 4 plus 2 is 6, and 6 plus 2 is 8. So again, we had to add 2 every time we need to get to the next consecutive even integer. So as a general rule, I'm going to express a consecutive even integer with x plus 2. Now let's find out how this is going to help us solve some more problems. Our first example is the sum of two consecutive integers is 15. Find the integers. So I have two consecutive integers, so two numbers that follow each other, and their sum is 15. So the first step to solve such equation or such problems is to define the variables. So since we're talking about two numbers, I'm going to have to define these two numbers. So I'm going to let my first number equal to n. Now you can use x, you can use y, you can use any letter to express the variable, which means the consecutive integer after n is going to be n plus 1, because again, to get the consecutive integer, you had to add 1. So now, after defining our variables, the next step is to write our equation that can help us translate the algebraic expression into a mathematical expression. So since we're talking about the sum, that means we need to add. And we need to add these two numbers because the sum of these two numbers is 15. So adding these two numbers together will get me to this equation. n plus 1 equals 15. Now I'll be able to use this equation to find my numbers. So now we're ready to solve the equation that we have. n plus 1 equals 15. I'm going to have to add like terms because I have n and n can be combined together into 2n plus 1 equals 15. Now this is a two-step equation. All I need to do is to subtract 1 from both sides, which make me end with 2n equals 14. To get rid of 2 now, all I need to do is to use the division property of equality on both sides and divide by 2, which makes me end with 2n equals 7. Now, this is the first variable. That's the first number, which is n equals 7. That means the consecutive integer that comes after 7 is going to be 8, and 8 is going to be the second number. 7 plus 8 equals 15, which tells us that we solved this problem correctly. Now let's take a look at our second example. We have this problem. The sum of two consecutive odd integers, this time, is 36. Find the integers. Again, the first step is to define the variables. I'm going to define my variables, and I need two numbers in this case. So I'm gonna make my first number n, and my second number is going to be n plus 2, since I'm looking for the consecutive odd integer. And every time we're looking for the consecutive odd integer, we need to add 2 to the variable or the number. Now the next step is to write our equation, and that will help us translate this word problem into a mathematical expression or an equation. So when I talk about the sum of these two numbers, that means I need to add n and n plus 2 together, and the answer is supposed to be 36. So the only thing I need to do now is to solve the equation. So this is what I'm going to start with. In this equation, we have n plus 2 equals 36. We have like terms, n and n can be combined together into 2n plus 2 equals 36. This is a two-step equation. We can solve this equation by subtracting 2 from both sides, which makes me end with 2n equals 34. Dividing both sides by 2 will allow me to have n by itself, which is going to be equal to 17. This tells me that the first number is 17, and the second number is supposed to be the next, or the consecutive odd integer, which is, in this case, is going to be 19.